Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We have a lot to discuss. Kimberly Guilfoil becoming the ambassador to Greece, as apparently Don Jr. has a new girlfriend, or at least he's been photographed.
First of all, that's Kimberly Gargoyle. You got to call her by her right name.
Yeah, Kimberly Gargoyle, now the ambassador to Greece. I guess. I think it was our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, said, he mentioned you, so I don't know if you find this funny or not. He said, so back in 2016, Donald Trump had Michael Cohen who would do NDAs and non-disclosure agreements and things like that. He goes, now Donald Trump just appoints people to become ambassadors in foreign countries. And so that's basically where we've evolved. I guess I can go into all these other topics that I want to discuss on today's episode. But why don't we just start right there? We should also discuss, did you see, but this is for real, that Russian TV was reporting that Bashar al-Assad is going to have his own podcast. I can't make this stuff up.
I wonder if he's going to want me to come on. It is his first guest.
Bashar al-Assad and Michael Cohen.
My friend.
Michael Cohen. Tell me about Kimberly Gargoyle, Mr. Cohen.
Let me say this. Let me say this about Kimberly Gargoyle. First of all, I never understood the attraction between Don Jr. and the Gargoyle. I mean, she is like around 9 years older than he. I mean, she was formerly married to Gavin Newsom. She's no longer kind of in the mix. There were a lot of things that she was doing that really angered not just Don Jr., but also obviously Dad and the entire group of people. So you're right. Instead of putting her with the RNC, which is a place that they were dumping everyone, keep them on the payroll, keep them quiet, keep them happy. Instead, they're going to move her now out of the country so that Don Jr. can have his relationship with this Palm Beach socialite by the name of, what's her name? Anderson, Bettina Anderson. I mean, it's great. I mean, the funny thing is Don has really changed a lot since I've known him. I was crazy about his first wife, Vanessa. She's a wonderful wife. She was a wonderful mom. She was a wonderful friend, and never understood why they couldn't make that go after, of course, he had a relationship, an affair with what's her name? From the singer.
Aubrey O'Day.
Aubrey O'Day, yeah, from The Apprentice.
Yeah, and you had Aubrey O'Day on Mea Culpa,
yes,
right? And that's where I remember that episode very vividly. I think it's gotten over 1 million views on well
over channel. That.
Yeah. And Aubrey went over what happened. Was she with him in a club, and it happened in a club, or in like?
Well, they were together for a very long time, and it became very, very serious. And that's what ultimately broke up the marriage between Don Jr. and Vanessa. And I remember Don Jr. coming into my office, crocodile tears and all. I mean, he had just had, I think, his third child with Vanessa, and he did not want the marriage to end, and he was really angry at himself for what he had done. And he asked me if I would speak to Vanessa, which I did, and try to keep the marriage together, which I did. Wasn't easy, but I did. And then I spoke with Aubrey, and we had a very pleasant conversation, multiple conversations, which I talk about on Mea Culpa in the old episode, where I just explained that he's a father, of 3. It's not obviously good for her reputation or for her career. And I think that they should just put an end to it and not discuss it, and just let it die a slow death. to which point she turned around and she agreed, didn't want to be that home wrecker. And, you know, despite the fact that she had very strong feelings for Junior, you know, she loved him, and she would say that he used to tell her quite often that he loved her as well, and that she actually thought that there was going to be a future for the two of them. Lo and behold, Don didn't stop. And, you know, he and Aubrey continued the relationship, even unbeknownst to me, again, which ultimately led Vanessa to walk away.
You know, and of course, there's the salacious elements to this and the family drama and the constant just chaos that surrounds these Trumps. But there's a deeper issue, though, here, right, that I think is truly worthy of focusing on and pivoting away from the salacious stuff and really talking about, though, that now these ambassadorships are all being filled once again with the nepotism, with Trump family members, right? You have the ambassador of France being Charles Kushner, who Donald Trump pardoned in 2020. And just to remind people, Charles Kushner was criminally prosecuted and pled guilty. He was prosecuted by Chris Christie, then the main federal prosecutor in New Jersey, right? And Charles Kushner was involved in federal election law violations in 2004, 2005. And then he set up his own brother-in-law, his sister's husband, with a prostitute, videotaped it, showed his sister the videotape of the brother-in-law with the prostitute to try to get the sister and brother-in-law to not testify against him in the federal election case. Then he was charged with witness tampering for doing that, for attacking his own family members by setting them up with prostitutes. That's someone who's now the ambassador of France. You have Tiffany Trump's father-in-law.
He's part of the envoy now.
Mossad Boulos, who's now one of the main Middle East envoys and kind of top advisors. You know, the New York Times just did a story about it. Mossad Boulos, President-elect Trump's incoming Middle East advisor, has enjoyed a reputation as a billionaire deal maker, but there is no indication in corporate documents that he is a man of significant wealth as a result of his businesses. This is what New York Times is reporting. You know, and Cohen, this is the type of stuff that New York Times should be reporting more about. Stick to the journalism, stick to the facts. These types of exposés, you know, are the bread and butter. Stop with the talking about this poll or that poll. Here's what it says from this article. President-elect Donald Trump's incoming Middle East advisor, Mossad Boulos, again, father-in-law of Tiffany, has enjoyed a reputation as a billionaire mogul at the helm of a business that bears his family name. Mr. Boulos has been profiled as a tycoon by the world's media, telling a reporter in October that his company is worth billions. Mr. Trump called him a highly respected leader in the business world with extensive experience on the international scene. The president-elect even lavished what may be his highest praise, a deal maker. In fact, records show that Mr. Boulos has spent the past 2 decades selling trucks and heavy machinery in Nigeria for a company that his father-in-law controls. So he's the father-in-laws here. The company, SCOA Nigeria PLC, made a profit of less than $66,000 last year, corporate filings show. There is no indication in corporate documents that Mr. Boulos, a Lebanese American whose son is married to Mr. Trump's daughter Tiffany, is a man of significant wealth as a result of his businesses. The truck dealership is valued at about $865,000 at its current share price. Mr. Boulos' stake, according to securities filings, is worth $1.53. Now, Cohen, you and I both know this doesn't mean that there are hidden assets, places, and other
You
businesses.
don't have to say hidden. We don't have to say hidden. First of all, that article only takes one side to it. I want to be very clear. My understanding of the Boulos family, whether it's from the father's side, which it obviously is not, more on the mother's side, they own gold mines in Nigeria. And that's what they do. They, as a family, they were, or maybe still are, wealthier than the Trumps. They're wealthier than the Kushners. Tiffany did not marry a young man whose family's assets do not exceed hers. At one point in time, when it was speculated that Trump was going to end up being held accountable for the various 4 indictments and that the company was going to be going under, the big joke was that he was now going to have to go to the least favorite child within which to bail out his company, which they could easily have done. That's the stories that I had been, hearing from before. I don't acknowledge the fact that Boulos's company made 66,000. The whole company is worth 600,000. The ring that he bought for Tiffany would far exceed the family's net worth.
Well, that's why we have you on to break that down.
And the funny thing too. So Tiffany is a lawyer. Tiffany went to
George went to my law school.
Yeah, a la Michael. I was the one who had helped her, with the application, to get in.
You helped her with the Georgetown law application?
Look, my daughter and Tiffany have known each other since they were little kids. I've had Tiffany over to the house. She spent some time with us, even out in the Hamptons. And so she's a very nice young lady. And I've always liked Tiffany. And I've known Tiffany longer than I've known Donald. And I have to tell you, they never, not Ivanka, not Don, not Eric, none of them ever really treated her, equally and so on. But ultimately, when she married Boulos, all of a sudden, a lot of things had changed. She started to be recognized by Dad and by the siblings or the half siblings, which, to be honest with you, I'm very happy for her on that. And Marla, who I had a chance to get to know pretty well, Marla's a really nice lady, to be very honest with you. A little bit too much. She's gotten into Kabbalah, which is, to those of you who don't know, that's Jewish mysticism. She's very much into Kabbalah. She's very spiritual. In fact, she's so spiritual, I had to tell her if she didn't stop, I was going to walk away, because, everything can't be, praise Jesus or, in God's name. She's very, very, very religious when it comes to that.
And now you have Kimberly Guilfoyle, you refer to as Gargoyle, but Kimberly Guilfoyle being the ambassador of Greece. So just taking those 3 individuals to appoint your family members to those ambassadorships. Now, again, can you imagine the scandal, the front page stories if Biden named people to those positions, yet alone?
But Ben, they do. In fact, all presidents name people that are within their inner circle.
Hunter Biden was the ambassador of Ukraine.
I don't think so.
Was President Biden's brother? I yes and no, but go on, make your point, and we'll debate it.
So my point is, obviously, it's not like you go to school to learn how to be an ambassador. They're generally people. They're positions that are filled by people that are within the inner circle. It's always been that way. Now, I personally don't like the idea, and I'm with you on this, Ben. Just don't get me wrong. I don't like the fact that Charlie is the ambassador to France. You have Gargoyle now will be the ambassador to Greece. You have Boulos, part of the ensemble there for the Middle East, and you're going to have now Lara Trump is going to be a senator, right, in Florida. They're building a Trump dynasty, which who knows how long that it will ultimately last. If they do things that are deemed positive, who the hell knows? They could have built themselves like another Kennedy name. But if it goes south, which most people expect that it will, because of the grift, because of the deals that are being made. The Trump board just inked 2 deals in Saudi Arabia. And you wonder, wait. So Saudi Arabia, who's throwing their money around everywhere. They're going to have one of the FIFA tournaments coming up in a few years from now. Just imagine if the information gets out on how much they're being paid for the 2 licensing deals to build in Saudi Arabia. Come on, let's be serious. Do you not think that between the relationship between Mohammed bin Salman and Jared Kushner, do you think now that you have the father-in-law of Tiffany going to be part of that envoy there to the Middle East? Do you think because Steve Witkoff is also now a Middle Eastern advisor and so on, who's one of, he's, I can't call him a Trump friend. Let's just say a very long-standing Trump ally. You have so much intermingling that's going on here that, yes, I agree with you. This is unprecedented in U.S. history.
I'm going to flip this graphic to our producers right now. I want to highlight what you just said, though, because, these are perilous times where people are freaking pissed with a capital or lowercase p with an exclamation point at the end over the fact that there are billionaires who are spiking the football in people's faces, and people worth hundreds of millions of dollars spiking the football and laughing in people's faces while people are struggling to afford a home. People are struggling to have a job that sustains their life. People are struggling to keep their health care and get procedures to keep them alive. People are struggling to get an education. People are struggling to afford groceries. And Donald Trump and MAGA made a lot of promises to the American people that we all knew were lies over and over again. And what did they say with the accordion hands that Donald Trump would do? On day one, I'm going to do this. The price of eggs, I'm going to lower. All of these things, not just I'm going to fix it. What do you say, Cohen? I alone am the only person who can fix this. I'll stop the war in Ukraine, the unlawful invasion by Russia. I'm going to bring prices down. I'm going to bring the gas prices down. I'm going to solve this all. Well, just even over the past 48, 72 hours, Trump's being asked about those guarantees. And what's he saying? He's saying, I can't guarantee anything. I don't know. Remember on Meet the Press, Kristen Welker asked him about, are you going to bring down the prices? Can you guarantee that? He goes, no, I don't know. It's beyond my control. He went to Wall Street to ring the bell this morning, but then the Time magazine profile of him came out where they also said, do you think it'll be a failure of your presidency if you don't bring down grocery prices and the price of stuff that Americans struggle with? He goes, no, that's out of my control. I can't impact. If prices are up, I can't do anything about that.
But Ben, historically, that's what we have always seen. The promises that are made during the campaign, what he sold the silent majority of America on, which is how he ended up winning the election. What he sold them on were bumper stickers. They're bumper sticker quotes: lock her up, build the wall, gasoline and groceries, things like that. He is a master at marketing and branding. We can say whatever we want negative about him, his personality. We could say about his rhetoric. We could say about his messaging. When it comes to branding, he is a master at it. Why? Because there is a large segment of this population that they don't watch shows like Political Beatdown. They're not listening to Midas Touch Network. They're not watching mainstream media or cable news media. They don't read the newspaper. They get their information from one source. It's probably like a TikTok or a Instagram or X, which, of course, as we all know, is controlled by Elon Musk, who, by the way, coincidentally, or as like we used to say as kids, coincidincally, doubled his net worth since Donald Trump became president-elect. The guy is now at $400 billion. Imagine what that money can do to harm somebody so that he could stay in Donald's good grace. This is very dangerous. All right. And Ben, I am 100% in agreement with you on this, that this absolutely is explosive news, and it has to be dealt with by you, by me, by our brigaders, by everyone.
You know, you have Eric Trump making posts like this. And again, right now, corporate media is giving Donald Trump, you know, I guess they've always, you know, I was going to say giving him the honeymoon, but they've been giving him the honeymoon, the anniversary, the wedding, the bat mitzvah, the Sweet 16. You know, their coverage of him is the most propagandized thing ever. But at some point when you're out there like the Trumps, to your point, Cohen, and you have someone like an Elon Musk worth $400 billion, who you then appoint to run a committee called Doge that right away starts to talk about taking away people's Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security and taking away veterans' health benefits, while someone's net worth increases by hundreds of billions of dollars. As you start to see these billionaires spike the football, as Eric Trump makes posts like this, incredibly proud to officially launch a product that has been underway for many months. The Trump Tower Jeddah. How do you pronounce that, Cohen?
Jeddah.
Jeddah. Thanks to our partners, DAR Global, this will be our 5th project together and among the most luxurious buildings anywhere in the world. You know, you start to flaunt your private jets and your gold buildings and your golden toilet bowls and your lavish wealth over and over again in people's faces. You start to prioritize publicly, which they're going to do, and they've already started doing it, lowering the tax burdens on billionaires and corporations that already are able to avoid their taxes. You combine that with the fact that Trump ain't fixing the housing crisis. He's going to be making it worse. The price of eggs ain't going down with the H5N1 strand and the things that and the steps that need to be taken to deal with containing avian flu contagion. Donald Trump's either going to not do the right testing, which will lead to the proliferation of the avian flu, and we'll be back in a situation like we were in 2020 by hiding it, or you take the steps and egg prices continue to go up. You add that with the tariffs that Donald Trump's going to be imposing, and you and I will talk about the response from Canada and the response from Mexico and China, the BRICS bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, which have other South American countries joining. Cohen, people are livid and pissed about that, as you hear my dog.
You know, by the way, Ben, you know who just experienced a scenario where they were shoving opulence beyond opulence in the face of people who were starving, going back to like the olden days of let them eat cake? Bashar al-Assad. That's who, as you know, they now ransacked the castle. They found something like 60 or 70 Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Bugattis, and so on. They started, you know, basically stealing everything out of the palace, and the guy fled. And as you just said, fled probably to Russia, where he's going to have his own podcast or what have you.
Yeah.
Let me be very clear about something. The United States is very, very different, of course, than Syria or really any other place in the world. But the American people will soon find out that most of the promises that were made, many of the promises that are reasons why people voted for Donald over Kamala, And again, it was all about messaging. Give the guy credit where credit is due. And I say give the guy credit where credit is due because if we do, it is the only way that we will be able to be successful in 2026 and 2028. The Democrats failed, and we failed miserably in getting out the message. We spoke with policy, we spoke factually, he spoke with bumper stickers. All they remembered were the bumper stickers. The Democratic Party, everybody that was out there, Ben, myself, on here, Political Beatdown, Mayor Copa, my Michael Cohen channel on the YouTube, we were all separate and distinct from the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign. Whereas with the Trump campaign, every single person, every single day got talking points. Every single day they sent out talking points. That's why every single Republican, I'm talking about from guys that are on the Hill, from members that are on the Hill to individuals on Fox, on OAN, on Newsmax, on all of the individuals that are out there on television speaking, all of these folks all using the identical words, the identical language, drilling it into people's heads over and over and over again till the lie ultimately becomes the truth. It is why we have to recognize our own faults. Where did we fuck up? Because when we do that, we will know exactly what we need to do to correct course. So that 2026 and 2028, which historically always return to the party that is not in power. Remember Clinton, Barack Obama, even Trump in his first 40, when he was the 45th president. We must know our mistake. Otherwise, we will continue to make the same mistake and allow the Trump 2.0s, the Trump 3.0s, the Trump 4.0s to keep control over this country. And let me tell you something. It's going to be really dangerous when you start to see that the 5 richest people in America have more than 70% of our nation's wealth. That's scary stuff.
Michael Cohen, you and I are going to take our first and only quick break of the show. You know, one of the things I want to talk about when we get back is it just seems the issue is staring not, I would say, Democrats right in the face, but all Americans. I mean, as I said, people are pissed. People did not want to turn forward. They want to know who did this to me and who do I blame for it. And Trump said, migrants, trans people, deep state, George Soros, all a lie, but that's who he said. He said, here are who you blame. Democrats said, let's move forward. Let's turn the page. Let's be positive. That message resonated with a lot of Americans, but a lot of Americans are like, I don't know, what are you talking about? Like, tell me who did this to me and how we fix it. And I think that that's what needs to be channeled by the Democrats in a sophisticated, in a punchy, in a quick, in a peaceful way in order to get these messages out that are impactful to the American people and that resonate and say, look at what Eric Trump is posting. He's bragging about getting skyscraper deals in Saudi Arabia. I mean, this used to be
the number of views, Ben. This is where we as Democrats screwed up. You have to look, Eric Trump. Go back to that for 1 second, if you will, Jeremy. 8 million views? Seriously, on one post, 1.8 million people viewed that.
Or bots or whatever. But yeah, I mean, look.
I don't know, bots, not bots, schmots, whatever we want to call them. The point being, you could drop that down. 1.8 million people saw that. And that's only up until the point that we took the photo, that we took the snapshot in time. And he'll put up another one and so on. My point being, they're reaching numbers far greater than we are. And they're reaching it with things that 5 people should basically take a look at it. Who gives a shit, right? I'm more concerned with the fact that the company, the eponymous company of the president-elect, is doing financial deals with a country, Saudi Arabia, that we do have to be concerned about. Plain and simple. So do we not think now that there will be some sort of better relationship? Did they buy the president of the United States with 2 buildings? I don't know.
I think we know the answer, but it needs to, I don't hear any Democrats talking about that right now. I don't hear it being covered by the media at all.
No,
right
that's
now.
why we do. And that's what I was saying before. It's why this network, Ben, is so important. It's why our numbers here on this network far surpass that of CNN and MSNBC. Because here on this network is where you're going to hear facts. You hear the reality. I understand the game because I was in the game. Nobody was more in the game than I. So I see what they're doing. I've been down that road before. And nobody wants to talk about the fact that he received millions and millions and millions of dollars for these 2 branding deals. In fact, he could ask MBS for whatever he wants. They have fuck you money. So if they gave him $100 million up front for the branding rights for 2 buildings, so really? You think you're not buying influence there? The office of the presidency, I'm afraid, not right now, but it will in January 2020, be for sale. And that's going to be dangerous for all of us.
Seems like it is already. Everybody make sure you subscribe to @The Michael Cohen Show YouTube channel, @The Michael Cohen Show on YouTube. Also, Mea Culpa Blue. Wherever you get your audio podcast, just search Mea Culpa. We will be right back after our first and only quick break of the show.
This show is sponsored by Betterhelp. Look, for me, the holidays are all about spending time with people who matter most to me in my life. And this is the thing that brings me the most comfort. So how do you stay cozy during the winter months? Now, for some, wrapping up in a blanket with a mug of hot chocolate or just watching a movie with family, that's the best way to spend the month of December. Therapy is also a great way to bring yourself some comfort that never goes away, even when the season changes. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma like I have, like 51 days of solitary confinement. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. Now, just know this, it's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, to be flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime at no additional charge. So find comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/beatdown today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/beatdown. Go there now. Golden Nugget Online Casino invites you to turn the cold gold. So transform your winter moments into winning ones with all your casino favorites like the thrilling slot Icy Wilds, Blackjack, and exclusive games that you can't find anywhere else. Plus, enjoy special seasonal rewards all winter long. So whether you're spinning reels or doubling down, make this a season to celebrate. Now, new players sign up with code BEATDOWN and spin for a shot at up to $1,000 in casino credits with a minimum deposit of $5 or more only on Golden Nugget Online Casino. So make any moment golden. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER and please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. It's one per new customer. Deposit $5 and spin wheel to receive $10 to $1,000 in non-withdrawable casino credits for select games that expire in 168 hours. Terms at goldennuggetcasino.com/welcome.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. No one does the ad reads like Michael Cohen. Michael, I want to turn our attention for a moment to some international affairs. And at the Midas Touch Network, we've been covering the developments in Mexico. What's their response? Their President Claudia Sheinbaum saying, if you're going to attack our sovereignty, we will impose retaliatory tariffs, and we're going to make you feel pain if you make us feel pain. Simultaneously, President Sheinbaum has been holding, at the last G20 meeting in Brazil. She was not supposed to meet with President Xi, and she ended up meeting with President Xi, obviously sending a message as well that we'll find other allies if America doesn't want to be an ally and if they want to bully us. We've also been highlighting here the response by Canada. And we have a lot of Canadian followers here. You and I talked about this on the past show. A lot of our Canadian followers were saying, look, Ben, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago first because the Canadian spirit is, even if you are attacking us and bullying us, you're an ally. We'll try to give you the benefit of the doubt. We'll educate you on what tariffs are. We'll escalate from there. So people said, look, don't view Trudeau going there as anything other than he's showing he's a responsible leader, and watch what happens next. Sure enough, Justin Trudeau has escalated his rhetoric as well. And what's interesting in Canadian politics, right? The main opposition party is the Conservative Party right now, led by someone named Pierre Poilievre. And he's been sucking up to MAGA for many years. Also, some of the conservative premiers, like the conservative premier in Ontario, Doug Scott, has said, look, my support of MAGA was unwavering. You go to the premier in Alberta, she's been very MAGA friendly as well. And so the whole dynamics right now, Doug Scott was a marketing guy who I worked with 20 years ago. That's why Doug Scott was in my head. Doug Ford in Ontario. I think Daniel Smith in Alberta, and Pierre Poilievre is the leader of the opposition party. But now the Conservative Party that expected that they were going to take control of Parliament and allow Pierre Poilievre to lead, they're in this awkward situation because they've been supporting MAGA. MAGA's been bullying them. So now you have kind of all of the Canadian political parties. First I saw one of the other kind of opposition parties, though, but that's allied with the Liberal Party, the NDP, the New Democratic Party. So they've been very powerful in saying, hey, Trump is bullying. We're not going to stand for bullying. And then now we're seeing the Conservatives saying that as well, that we're going to retaliate. So let me just show you these videos. I know you've got family, and your roots are in Canada as well. But first, let me show you this. The first one I'll show you this is recently what Doug Ford said last night or 2 days ago, kind of changing his tone. Let's play this.
Let's make no mistake about it. As I mentioned to the Prime Minister, the rest of the premiers, we need to be ready. We need to be ready to fight. This fight is coming 100% on January the 20th or January 21st. But we'll use every tool in our toolbox, including cutting them off energy that we're sending down there. Folks, this is coming. It's not if it is, it's coming. And it's coming January 20th or 21st. And we need to be prepared. We need to stand as a country. We need to stand united as Canadians and work hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder with our colleagues across the country. And we're ready to do it. We'll use every tool in our toolbox to fight back. We can't sit back and roll over. We just won't as a country. We never have.
So Doug Ford, Conservative Party, he used to be MAGA guy. He was quoted as saying,
yep,
my support for Trump is unwavering. Let me show you one more, Cohen, then get your response. On the opposite end of the political spectrum, the New Democratic Party, you had Charlie Angus, member of Parliament, gave this incredible speech. I played the whole speech on one of our YouTube videos. Let me show you a small portion of it here. This is the party that's allied with the majority party, the Liberal Party. This is the NDP right now. Play this clip.
So yes, they are our neighbors, but we have stood up to them. We're in a different situation with Donald Trump, a convicted predator, who's seriously undermining the democratic process in the United States, and he thinks he can just push us around. He insults us.
Yep.
You know, the Conservatives seem to like it because he's insulting our prime minister, but he's not really insulting the prime minister. He's insulting Canadians, calling us the 51st state.
That's right, exactly.
You know, once there was a Canada that had a flag that didn't need to be waved. A flag that represented who we are. We didn't boast about it.
That was Charlie Angus, a member of the Canadian House of Commons. He's Michael Cohen. And when you have the NDP and the Conservative Party in Canada saying similar things, and Donald Trump's uniting political part, not necessarily uniting them, but at least rhetorically against the United States, and these are our allies in Canada and Mexico. This is China's dream scenario right now.
Yes, but let's at least be honest with each other, right? This Canadian gentleman can say whatever he wants, that we're going to use whatever tool we have in our toolbox. What do they have? Do you know how big, for example, the Canadian Army is? The Canadian Army is smaller than the New York City Police Department. They have 70,000 people in their entire military. Their major production, the major outsourced goods that they send to the United States is steel, aluminum, lumber, and gas, natural gas. We can do without all of those. That's the unfortunate reality that we have. And my family, half my family live in Toronto. I love Canada. And I got to tell you something. I'm so disappointed that Trudeau went there to kiss the ring. You see, the mistake that Trudeau
I don't think
made.
he went there to kiss the ring, though. I don't.
What he did is he thought that he was going to outsmart Trump. He was going to go there. They were going to have a pleasant conversation. He was going to go there, kiss the ring, tell him how great it is that he's going to be returning to the White House, unprecedented victory. But Donald, it's really not in either of our best interests. And these are Trudeau's words. It's not in either of our best interests within which to impose tariffs. In 2017, Trump imposed tariffs on, for example, aluminum that was being imported to the United States. The cost went up so much, like, for example, with aluminum cans, that Trump gave them a waiver. He gave everybody a waiver. So he went there thinking he was going to sweet talk Trump out of this notion of doing the tariffs on Canada. Instead, you know what Trump saw in Trudeau? He saw weakness. I've seen this a million times with Trump. The second he feels that you are weak, he owns you. And not only did he decide that he was going to own him, he decided he was going to embarrass him as well in front of his entire country. Because, yes, it's true. Trump hates Trudeau. He does. And by the way, you know why Trump hates Trudeau? You know, in 2017, you know what the rumor was? That Trump hated him because Ivanka thought he was really handsome. I'm not joking about this shit. That's how petty that things were in 2017. But Trump embarrassed him, not just in front of America when he turned around and kept calling him governor, but also when he started referring to Canada as the 51st state. He embarrassed him in front of his own country and the world. And that's what Trump wanted to do.
I think you are misreading it, to be honest. I think
Nope.
you're viewing it through an American perspective. I think that he did was actually help Trudeau's chances of staying in power in Canada by rallying people around. I speak to a lot of Canadians.
So I spoke to my cousins. As I told you, I have 5 first cousins that live in Toronto. Each one of them thinks Trudeau has to go. And one of my cousins is actually friendly with Trudeau. And he also thinks that it's enough. It's such an embarrassment to the country, the fact that Trudeau came. Now, it's one thing if Trudeau went to the White House. Every leader goes to the White House. But going to Mar-a-Lago to meet with the president-elect, for what? For what? Because Trump is threatening tariffs on wood, right? On lumber, on gas, on rolled steel, on hard steel. Do you know at the end of the day, assuming that those tariffs go through to the extent Trump is talking, then you know who's going to ultimately feel the effects of those tariffs? It's not going to be the Canadian Lumber Company. It's not going to be the rolled steel company. It's not going to be the steel pallet company. It's not going to be the gas company, the natural gas coming out of Canada. It's going to be us, the consumer, because they all make their profit. If you need, for example, the lumber to build a house, who do you think is going to end up paying the 175% increase for each piece of wood? You and me. It's going to put an end to the housing market once and for all here. It's going to absolutely stop. And what about all the workers, the folks that build the house? What about those the guys from the unions? Those who voted for Trump under the guise that he was going to be good for the country with tariffs. I am 100% in agreement with the 27 different U.S. economists that said tariffs are going to tank our economy, and we are kicking ass right now. The stock market's at all-time high, unemployment all-time low, things are going great. Tariffs, whether it's just Canada, whether it's China, whether he's going to do it across the board, it's going to tank our economy. So get ready for it. And that's why you're going to see a complete and total change, which is historically what happens in the midterm elections.
Cohen, I want you to come back to us next week's episode and ask those cousins of yours in Canada who say Trudeau needs to go what they expect to happen. Or ask them, are they Maple MAGA? Do they want Pierre Poilievre? Do they want the MAGA crew to come in? Who's there? Most people who I talk to will say, do we love Prime Minister Trudeau? Do we think that there's more effective leadership? They go, yeah. Do we think that the current Liberal NDP alliance is better than having a Maple MAGA situation? They'll usually say, we think that we got to be very careful because you bring in Maple MAGA and that could fundamentally change some of the core things in Canada. But let me just also add this, Cohen, to what you said, where you said, what can Canada do? Let me tell you this. Canada provides natural gas to the U.S., and roughly 20% of the crude oil used by the United States, 1/5 of all crude oil in the U.S. comes from Canada. Also, if they did something with their crude oil, U.S. gas prices could jump immediately, 70 cents to $1 more, just by Canada taking action. Also, Ontario supplies electricity to 1.5 million U.S. homes, and it's also a major exporter of power to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York. Midwestern states in particular that Trump relied on to win the election could be in serious risk as well. About 19% to 12% of Michigan and Illinois' GDP relies heavily on imports from Canada, Mexico, and China as well. And so the short of it is that what can Canada do? Canada can do certain things that can help, that would be harmful in critical areas. And the last time around, during Trump #1, they focused on certain strategic areas to target. I think they targeted like Harley Davidson and a few other companies that had major power politically in areas. So there are things that they can do anyway. We won't get into a whole Canadian, but ask your cousins in Canada what they view as the alternative, because a lot of people I speak to are very concerned about a Pierre Poilievre coming into power.
Yep. And they are concerned about that too. You know, they're going through the same issue that we're going here, right? Remember when it was Trump versus Biden and everybody kept saying, seriously, out of 368 million Americans, the only two people to run for the presidency are two older guys, right? That this is the best that this country has to offer. Now, Joe Biden has done great things during his 50 years in office, but there comes a point in time that everybody has to say, you know what? I have given my all to the country. Now I need to just spend the last few years of my life enjoying it, right? And allow some people with some younger blood to come in there. The problem is even with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, had she left when people said, hey, maybe you should step down, Trump wouldn't have ended up with that vote. He wouldn't have ended up with that nomination. I mean, these are just the things that, of course, it's easy. Hindsight being 20/20. I'm just turning around and I'm making factual statements. But you're right. Next week, Ben, on Tuesday, I will come back and I will tell you exactly what my cousins say.
Look, the fact that we're having a debate like this on the geopolitical ramifications of Trump bullying and delving into Canadian politics and delving into the politics of Mexico, rather than focusing so much on whatever outrageous thing Donald Trump's doing or this or that, to delve deeper into these dynamics and connect our pro-democracy movement here in the U.S. to the threats against democracy elsewhere. Because let's be clear, Cohen, all of these authoritarians across the world are uniting together right now during these times.
Look, let me be serious. Let me just be factual about something here. Ben, you and I agree on the forest. We may have a difference of opinion on some of the trees, but the forest remains the same. What was done, the demeaning of a prime minister of another country simply because you wanted to do it for shits and giggles, it's just not presidential. It doesn't help America on the international stage. And it just, again, it just doesn't make any sense.
I want to share this with you as well. Let's go back to domestic politics to close out the show. And I want to talk about Trump picking people to have these senior administration positions and cabinet positions whose life missions is to destroy the cabinet positions that they're given. He literally is picking the people to destroy it from within. And I think a good example of this is when Donald Trump back in May of 2020 picked Louis DeJoy to be the postmaster. Remember Louis DeJoy?
He's a friend of mine.
And so I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but Louis DeJoy. But Louis DeJoy went in. He undermined the post office and on a bipartisan basis. That's what people think. He was a donor to Trump, huge donor to Trump. He ran businesses and invested millions of dollars with his wife in businesses that compete with the post office, and screwed up our mail system. And I'll just show you this. This is Dr. Richard McCormick. He's a MAGA Republican representative. But when I think a MAGA Republican representative is asking the right questions, I'm going to show him here and say, McCormick's wrong about mostly everything else. I disagree with McCormick. But right here, this was his questioning of Louis DeJoy, the postmaster. Here, watch this moment.
You were graded by the United States people, and they don't use your service anymore. You bankrupt.
That is not true.
You bankrupt this through your reputation only. Through your reputation, you are responsible for the fall of the Postal Service and the lack of accountability.
Congress is responsible for the fall of the Postal Service.
So it's Congress.
I am trying to fix
on your
the Postal
watch
Service.
With all the AI.
Before my watch, the same stuff happened.
With all the AI, with all the computer systems, you're worse than if I took a horse and picked up the mail and delivered it 2 miles down the road. That's you. I hope you got that on camera. This is the response that the postmaster just gave Congress when he doesn't like what he hears. Literally covered his ears and gave himself the grade of A. And with that, sir, I rest.
That was a good cross-exam from a guy who
It was very good. Look, let me go back and explain my relationship with Lou DeJoy. When I was vice chair of the RNC Finance, despite the fact I was a Democrat, and Steve Wynn was the was the senior. He was the chair. Lou DeJoy was also a vice chair. That's how I got to know him. Lou DeJoy's job, his company, was in logistics. I agree with you wholeheartedly. How do you put somebody whose business is logistics to go ahead and to run the United States Postal Service, considering they're at odds with one another for business? I just, again, sure, because we were working in 2016, raising a lot of money together. That's how I got to know Lou DeJoy. He's not a 40-year friend. He's a guy who I ended up working with a lot because there were only 4 of us in the entire organization. So that's just to answer some of the people who want to say, "Oh, Cohen likes to be friends with scumbags." He became a scumbag when he got the job. Let me just go on as we're rounding down now to the end of. Listen, I'm friends with Ben. Are you guys calling Ben a scumbag? I certainly hope not, right? Because then you would be absolutely
I'm not
wrong.
for that
Now,
logic.
Ben will turn around and tell you that he's friends with Michael Cohen. Is Michael Cohen a scumbag? Yeah, you could go ahead. You could call me whatever you want. I've been called.
Well, we'll put it this way. The Michael Cohen of 2020 met the Ben of 2020, and the Michael Cohen of 2016 was friends with the Louis DeJoy of 2016. So.
All right, I'll grant you that. Look, so who's going to get the 2-finger salute today? It has to be Nancy Mace. I don't know whether it's true or not, but what I do know, what I absolutely know, is that the gentleman who she claimed attacked her. What's this guy's name? Elliot Hinkle. A guy who found
the guy with McIntyre. Hinkle was the witness.
Got it. McIntyre, right? That the guy turns around and he says, "It's just not true." Now she's wearing an arm brace. It reminds me of like the Brady Bunch, where the guy claims that he had the whiplash until Mike Brady drops his suitcase on the ground, and he turns around, he jerks his head, and he's like, "Oh, it's a lie." Give me a break. All right. What did she have? A shoulder surgery? Again, stop it. Now, I know that there was some connection between the guy who she claimed assaulted her and the LGBTQ plus community and so on. Again, you're not going to get sympathy from me. You're not certainly going to get sympathy from this network. You're not going to get sympathy from our brigaders. And so with that, Nancy Mace, I certainly hope that this whole thing isn't another publicity stunt, which so many people are ending up doing. They get their 5 minutes so that they can go and raise more money off of it. The whole thing is just absolute horse shit. And for that, Nancy, honestly, you get the 2-finger salute today.
She's like posting photos of herself looking like Wonder Woman. She posts photos of herself drinking Pinot Noir and saying, "Look at me, I'm a real woman and I'm stopping all of these transgender women and attacking them." And just, it's like part of what you and I were saying at the outset of this is that shtick is wearing thin. And don't get me wrong, they managed to distract a lot of Americans during this election. They got a lot of people to focus on culture wars while the billionaires launched a class war against defenseless 99% of Americans and buried them, and pushed all of these things. They're eating your cats and dogs, and it's a deep state cabal, and it's transgender people, and you got to focus on the volleyball player in San Jose State, or you got to focus on
the swimmer or the runner.
The swimmer. Oh my God, it's an attack. And the reality is that these culture war issues are the subterfuge for a class war that's being initiated and perpetuated by billionaires to expand their wealth at the expense of the people. And they know they can divide people on the basis of religion and identity and all of these things. Then a divided people will end up supporting these policies that are frankly screwing these people. Then if you keep people in conditions that are so screwed up that people don't even know who to blame. And so you tell them, blame these guys. And then to your point, Cohen, and the billionaires buy the media companies and the social media networks and just pump out the disinformation into the veins of these people. And so while we're at this point where we have access to all of this information, in many ways that has brought us backwards in human advancement than forward, because the information has been hijacked with lies. So it's not valuable information. It's valueless information that is benefiting a billionaire class. Now, here's the thing, Cohen. They can't help themselves but to spike the football in our face. When Eric Trump posts the big skyscrapers, and they post their Lamborghinis and their Gulfstream 600s, and they rub it in our faces and mock us and mock we the people, you know, it is creating an untenable situation. And it is critical that that energy be channeled to oppose that peacefully but forcefully, and that we get out of this authoritarian loop where this oligarchy and billionaires are trying to literally just screw us to no end. We're going to be fighting for you every single day here on Political Beatdown and on this network. So anybody, make sure you hit subscribe here. Let's get to 4 million subscribers together. Thanks for watching this. Make sure you subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe there today. Cohen's hot takes are brilliant there. Go check him out there. Also, make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa audio podcast, wherever you get your audio podcast. That's Mea Culpa Blue, not the red one. So just search Mea Culpa. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Political Beatdown. Really appreciate your support. Let's keep growing together. Have a good one, everybody.
Don't forget about Patreon, by the way.
Oh, patreon.com/politicalbeatdown. Check it out. Great call.